All right, welcome to HipMojo 28. You can end your hunger strikes. I know we were off last week, and we can explain that, but we're back on this 28th show with a special guest. I'm your host, Ashkan Karbas-Rushan, and joining me is Ian Jeffrey from Founder Fuel. Ian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get right to it. When I started my career online about 10, 12, 13 years ago, we would always hear about these incubators. CMGI was one of them. That spawned Alta Vista. Idea Lab is another one that spawned GoTo, now Overture. So what is an incubator and what is an accelerator?
There are many differences. The first and most obvious difference is that in an accelerator program, we bring in teams all on the same day, and they all leave at the same day. And the program finishes with a large event, which we call Demo Day. So that's the first really obvious distinction. So in the accelerator, we provide a variety of tools and a lot of opportunities through an ecosystem of mentors. And the teams come in, and it's up to them to seize those opportunities and execute on those opportunities as quickly as possible, all in a very condensed, short amount of time, those 30 days leading up to Demo Day. So that's the first big difference. The other big difference is that in the accelerator model, the teams will come to us with an existing product, usually in market, sometimes with significant traction, sometimes even with revenue, which is not the case in most incubators. An incubator will be often, you and I have complementary experiences or skill sets. We go in there and we sort of incubate and try to find an idea and a product to build, and we start building it. This is not the case with the accelerator.
Now, is the incubator model broken, or is this just like the way now everybody's excited about pivots and, is this the latest fad, or was the incubator model just broken and people thought it made sense to accelerate stuff?
No, I think in certain spaces, the incubator works still very well. In our world, in the web world, where exactly you mentioned it, where we're launching something that's not perfect, putting it out in the wild, getting feedback from the users, constantly adjusting and iterating very, very quickly, the accelerator model makes a lot of sense in that space. So the incubator still has its role, but not so much, we feel, in the web and mobile space.
Okay, now, we've heard of Y Combinator out in the Valley, and we've heard of Techstars, and I think there's a group in Boulder, Colorado, which has become a startup hub over the past few years. Founder Fuel is based in Montreal.
Yep.
So my question is, how is this different from those? Is it really just that this is based in Montreal, or have you looked at those models and said some of these things are broken and some of these things make sense? We're going to borrow and inspire from some, steal, and duplicate in Montreal. Like, tell us a little bit about what's similar, what's different.
Yeah, we've had the good fortune throughout everyone at Real Ventures who's involved in this to have been exposed to Y Combinator, to Techstars, but also in Europe to Seed Camp, Springboard, and multiple other accelerators around the world. Techstars and YC are really I'd say the pioneers and the leaders in the pack, but there's got to be at least 30 of these in the world. And so we've had the good fortune to look at these and participate in these in different ways, pick and choose the things that we like, bring them and adjust them to how we think it should be done. So it's clearly inspired from those models. But we all do different things, and we think that we've definitely found a formula that makes us a world-class accelerator.
Okay, so I want to touch more on Founder Fuel and ask you specific questions then later on the accelerator model. But you mentioned Real Ventures. So what's Real Ventures? Tell us a little bit about that.
So Real Ventures is an early-stage seed fund here in Montreal, Canada. It's one of the most active funds in Canada. And the idea of Founder Fuel came originally from Real Ventures. I think it's already been 3 years already. And so I joined Real Ventures last year of 2010, and my main role with Real Ventures is to bring Founder Fuel to life and to manage it.
Now, is Real Ventures the first round from the principals, or was there like a first fund?
Yeah, before Real Ventures, there was a fund called Montreal Startup, which one of the biggest successes is Beyond the Rack. So Real Ventures is the follow-on fund to Montreal Startup.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, you say 3 years. I think it was 2007, and I was pitching at the audience was all tech investors, right? So here I come, I'm like, Montreal-based video producer media company, and I was like, none of these audiences are going to even give a damn. But anyway, and that's when I actually met one of the the founders of Montreal Startup and Real Ventures partners, John Stokes. And I remember he came up to me with his British accent, and he's like, basically, yeah, I've come from Europe. And he was like, I've spent some time in Japan. And he's like, I'm going to go up to these largely French-Canadian investors and tell them to give me money to invest it in startups. And I was standing there going like, I don't know who's crazier, this guy for thinking he can do that or me for thinking I could build a video content company. But I mean, I give him, his initial partner, Daniel, and the team at Real Ventures, I mean, it is impressive how much things have changed. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if this was the post that ultimately led to them hiring you, but I remember when they put up a job application for like an associate for Real Ventures. And I remember going like, man, if in '99 when I finished from business school, this kind of job did not exist in Montreal. You had a few VCs who were like, okay, once you hit 20 million in revenue and 5 million in free cash flow, we'll invest in your company, but there was no such thing. So I think locally, depending on who's watching this, locally there's going to be some people who are like, oh my God, Montreal is still not San Fran or New York. But considering if you just sort of take a step back and go, how much things have changed in this city, in this country over the last 10, 15 years, it's a bit crazy. Okay, so you touched on Real Ventures. Yeah, Beyond the Rack, very successful from Montreal Startup. Real Ventures, I follow a few of the companies, a bit of disclosure. I'm actually one of the mentors, part of Founder Fuel. So let's focus and double click on Founder Fuel. Okay. The mentors.
Yep.
You had a first batch, you call them the cohort group. So tell us what worked and what didn't work and what you improved for the second batch.
Well, I think I'm speaking to probably about all accelerator programs. Our biggest challenge is to get the mentors involved as much as possible. So we have
guilty as charged.
We have 120 mentors on board. So one of my main responsibilities is to make sure that these people are coming in and seeing the teams as much as possible. So with this new cohort, we're doing a lot of things to make sure that the mentors have more opportunities to come in and the teams more opportunities by default to connect with the mentors. So very early on in the program, as you know, we do this large event where we invite all mentors to come into Montreal, and this is the first time that they get exposed to the mentors. So the team.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned that. What percentage are Montreal-based of the mentors, and what percentage are abroad?
I would say the majority are from Montreal, maybe 60%. But then we have some from Europe. We have some from the Valley, New York, all across Canada, of course. Waterloo, Vancouver. So I'd say that we have a really wide reach, and that's important because when the teams have challenges, they need to be able to have resources all over the world. So we do have, I'd say about 50 to 60% are Montreal, but the rest are international.
Good stuff. Sorry, interrupted you. You were talking about things that you changed from the first.
So, I was talking about Mentor Day, which is when the mentors come in and all meet the teams. It's the first time that they meet. But after that, we schedule on a weekly basis, which is a bit different from last time, office hours ahead of time. So any week, we'll have between 5 or 6 mentors that are either in Montreal in person if they're local, or via Skype, available for office hours, and we schedule these with the teams. So they're meeting mentors all the time. We're doing the same thing with VCs and angels, so we call them investor office hours. So the teams get very early exposure to the investors right off the bat. We also do happy hours every other week where all the mentors are involved. So every other Thursday, we all go out for a drink, unwind, and it's a good opportunity for the teams to meet the mentors in a less formal setting, even though we're not very formal.
You want an investor to take out his checkbook, just get him wasted.
Exactly.
That'll usually work.
So a lot of things, a lot more, I guess the general theme is getting in as many investors as possible with less, so perhaps, how would I say, so actually seeing more mentors less often than seeing the same mentors more often.
Okay, good stuff. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. I want to ask you a few questions about your background. I want you to, start naming names of who are the companies in the cohort, the first ones that you're most interested in. I guess you can't talk much about the second one, and a few other things. We'll be right back after this break.